Here's 7 rules you need to follow to hit 7 figures. My name is Kasim. I've built 6 7- and 8-figure businesses. I've had 2 successful exits, 1 for 8 figures, and I've generated a $10,000,000 net worth. My goal in life is to help you achieve 3x freedom. And these are 7 rules that you need to follow if you want to hit 7 figures. Rule number 1, simplify for success. That means less is more. Here's the thing. When you start out your business, you're going to end up trying to be everything for everybody. And that's okay. It's okay. One of the worst pieces of advice we give entrepreneurs is to niche down. Niching down is absolutely critical to success. The issue is you can't do it too soon, because if you niche down too soon, you're niching down without data. So when you start broad, you're starting exactly the way you're supposed to. I call it the hourglass of niching. You start broad and you realize that, hey, most of what I do, I either suck at or I don't enjoy or people don't want to pay me enough money for, it's not profitable, whatever. And then you slowly start to narrow. And then you find a productive niche. And once you've found a productive niche, you can expand from a service perspective and see what else you can do to serve that niche. That's the hourglass of niching. I have a whole video on the hourglass of niching if you want to watch it. But what I will say is simplicity builds profitability. So if you're in a position right now to where you can't reach the 7-figure mark, which is most businesses, by the way, only 4% of businesses will ever reach $1 million in gross revenue. It's not because you're not doing enough. It's because you're doing too much. So you started broad and you stayed there. Start to simplify. And it's so hard. It's so hard. I had an agency called Solutions 8 that was a full funnel agency. We did everything for everybody. And I loved big development. I loved website, software, apps, and I loved it because they would be 6 figures, these great big projects, and I'd get $100,000 just suddenly hit my, my P&L gross revenue, obviously, but still there were large numbers that excited me, and I loved to sell them and I loved to pursue them. And I thought that's how I was going to get rich. And on the side, we were running ads for people, and we were running ads for people for $1,000 a month. That's what we were charging. So I'm looking at these website developments that I'm getting $100,000 for. I mean, they'd cost me 50, 60, 70 when I take into consideration cost of goods from a vendor perspective, and then also the labor that was involved in managing them. But $100,000 looked like a lot of money. And then I'm getting this little teeny tiny Google Ads clients for $1,000 a month. My business partner, who was actually an employee at the time, he kept telling me, he's like, dude, we should just do Google Ads, because we were outsourcing it. There was no work involved for us after we were selling it. It was just rinse and repeat, mailbox money. And once they onboarded, they never left. Our retention was amazing. And I did not want to give up the development income. And what was so interesting is the day that I did, our business skyrocketed, because I was diluted in my focus, and I was chasing after these things that, yeah, it was big money, but the cost was even bigger. But simplifying helped explode our business. If you can't hit 7 figures, it's not because you're not doing enough. You're doing too much. Simplify. Number 2, you don't spend your time, you invest it. As you're growing, if you're at 6 figures in revenue and you're aiming for 7 figures, you've probably gotten pretty good at being busy. People who are at 6 figures in revenue, they have a full day, they have a full slate, and they've adopted this mindset that the meetings that are on the calendar are meetings that they have to take. What you begin to see is there's variability in the output of those meetings. Everything that's on your calendar has a cost. Is the cost worth it? And can you trade that for something else that has a higher yield? Start to be really ruthless in how you spend your time, how you invest your time. I don't do lunch. I don't do coffee dates. I won't take a meeting unless we've already had asynchronous communication about that meeting. If you want to put time on my calendar, first of all, what do you want to talk about? And with a couple of text messages or a couple of voice messages, can we go back and forth and just solve this problem? And generally speaking, the answer is absolutely yes. Most people want to put time on the calendar because what they're trying to do is get something off of their to-do list. And I'm not going to let you do that to me, and you shouldn't let other people do it to you. And very often, by the way, Mr. and Mrs. Entrepreneur, this is your fault. You've taught your people to do this. You're the one saying, oh, let's meet. You're killing your time. You don't spend time, you invest it. Are you investing your time adequate? Number 3, relationships are among your greatest assets. And it's not just relationships. It's not the obvious ones. I have had low-level employees rise in importance beyond what I ever thought was possible. I had a young man, his name was Danish. Danish was amazing. He was a kind of a website hacker type of, just did this, whatever we needed, just stuff. Think of him as a virtual assistant. Danish ended up referring Jay Abraham as a client. I have no idea how Danish met Jay Abraham or his team, but I got a message from him one day saying, hey, I've got a client on the hook that's way bigger than I'll ever be able to manage. Are you interested? I said, absolutely yes. And then we had a shot at Jay Abraham. And then at the very end of it, when I submitted my proposal, Jay's, I don't know what she was, handler or CMO or director of marketing, she hops on the phone with me and she goes, we believe that working with Jay is the equivalent of a master class in entrepreneurship, and that's enough payment, basically. So if you want the, and I don't know, I'm not telling you that Jay said this, I'm telling you what she said. and I'm not going to tell you her name, so hopefully I'm not guilty of slander, but this is what happened, and I'll fight in court to prove it. Basically, if you have the shot to work for Jay, you should be so lucky, and we're not going to pay you because this is everything that you deserve. That aside, it was a really interesting opportunity that came from a very unlikely source. So the relationships that you're building as an entrepreneur, invest in people, love people, treat them like they're important because they are. And I think you're going to find that attitude cascades, across every level of analysis. Your employees are your most important asset. Your employees are far more important to you than your customers will ever be, especially as you grow. So if you want to hit 7 figures, stop treating your employees like cattle. Stop treating people like commodities. Treat them like miracles, because they are, and you will never you might actually get to 7 figures treating people that way, but it's going to be hard and arduous and painful. And I've seen people that run those businesses. But if you want to get to 7 figures in a way where you don't feel like you're the one that's constantly doing all the work and, pulling a sled uphill, up a muddy hill, then treat people like they're miracles, invest in relationships. Rule number 4, systems over willpower. And that's you and other people's, by the way. I don't care how good or smart or motivated you are and how good and smart or motivated your employees are. Willpower is going to run out on a long enough timeline. It's guaranteed 100 times out of 100. You will fall to the level of your systems, never rise to the level of your capability. So if you don't have systems in place, that's why you're not at 7 figures. There's no such thing as a 7-figure business without systems. I promise you, it's impossible. It's a contradiction in terms. And I'm sure you can point to the one person, the one time that sold a 7-figure product to Lockheed Martin and then went out of business. Fine. Find the exception that proves the rule. But if you want a predictable 7-figure business, you have to begin building systems. Rule number 5, problems are the path. Problems are not an obstacle. Problems are the path. If you want the path to true profitability, look for the problems. I'll give you a really ultra specific example. Google Tag Manager. What is Google Tag Manager? I didn't know either. I built the #1 ranked Google Ads agency in the world. And all of our clients, whenever we would bring on a client, all of our clients had a very difficult time installing all the tracking codes that we needed them to install in order to properly run their ads. And there were website problems and downtime errors, and they'd install the code and it wouldn't work, and then they'd install the code and it did work, but then it would break, and it was just an absolute nightmare. And every Google ad agency that I know, pushed that problem over onto the client. And it was hard, and there was friction, and it pissed people off, and things would break. And we finally decided, you know what, we're going to do it. We're going to assume responsibility of Google Tag Manager, and we're going to get really, really good at Google Tag Manager. And guess what? That was hard. I had to bring on a data scientist to teach us all the different ways that Google Tag Manager needed to be installed based off of, the usual suspects from a website perspective. Shout out to Chris Mercer, by the way, over at Measurement Marketing. Those are the folks that helped us crack the code. Here's the thing. Once I invested in learning how to do that, we became the belle of the ball. There were businesses that would hire us because they're like, oh, you'll do that for us? Great. You're our ad agency. I don't care that you're more expensive. So that was, from the outside looking in, that was a problem. Really, that was an epic opportunity for me to level up over and above every other ad agency that exists by doing something that other ad agencies weren't willing to do because they saw it as a problem. I saw it as an opportunity. What are the problems in your business that will allow you to level up? That's how you move from 6 to 7 figures and 7 to 8. You make more money by solving better problems. That's where money comes from. Money is a representation of the value you provide other people. Value comes in solving problems. The bigger the problems that you solve, the more money you're going to make. Rule number 6, money loves speed. Money loves speed. It loves speed more than it loves perfection. And you see that in the economy over and over and over and over and over again. It's not the best product that wins. It's the first. It's the one that gets out there. It's the one that proves the concept. It's the one that helps people identify the model. So, and I know there's the fun saying that pioneers get shot and settlers prosper. I think that's true too. So I'm not telling you that just be fast, right? You need to be fast and you need to be good, but you need to strike the balance. There's an apex because everybody that's waiting in the wings trying to be the best, especially in this environment, an AI-driven environment, everything's moved so fast. So put a solution out there and then iterate. Put a solution out there and then improve upon it. But be fast, move, index towards action bias. It's the entrepreneurs that stay waiting in the wings, trying to plan and build and whiteboard, and it's the entrepreneurs that are willing to just ship it. And yeah, some things are going to break. That's, I think, Mark Zuckerberg's motto is move fast and break things. Not that he's a model entrepreneur. He's a petulant child thief, and I hate him. And he's a billionaire. So who's right, me or him? Money loves speed. Move quickly and index towards action bias. Rule number 7, people are the difference. Especially in an AI-driven world, people are the difference. Here's the thing. There are only 4 things that you can sell in any business. Products, processes, programs, people. And that's it. Name a business that sells something other than that. Products, processes, programs, people. Products, commoditized. Processes, commoditized. Programs, commoditized. People. That's the only non-commodity on this list. People are not commodities. They're miracles. I'll give you, and I'll prove it. If I have an ear of corn and you have an ear of corn and we trade, neither of us are better or worse off than we were a moment ago, right? That's a commodity. Easily interchangeable, indistinguishable, that post-trade, pre and post-trade. That's a commodity. People. I have a CPA. You have a CPA. We trade. Uh-oh. Right? It doesn't matter if it's the same person with the same background, the same education, the same experience. Everybody is different. Every human being is different. Every human being is a unique, beautiful butterfly, snowflake miracle. And when you find those people, it's the Pareto distribution. True Pareto talent does 5, 10, 100x what an average employee does. When I sold my business for 8 figures, one employee was managing 40% of the revenue. One employee was managing 40% of the revenue. And you think like, oh gosh, that's Keyman Insurance. That's every organic ecosystem that's going to happen. So what if you index towards just finding those people, just finding the Pareto talent? People are going to make the difference more and more and more now, especially with AI. Here's the problem with AI. Historically speaking, pre-AI, you actually needed people more than you needed programs. Right? Because, we're on a digital assembly line and I just need people to ship stuff. And pre-AI, a mediocre employee was okay. A mediocre employee was functional. It's like, yeah, Tommy's a 7 on a 10 scale. He's a C- student, but he at least produces enough. So let's say we're a graphic design shop and we've got some really good graphic designers, but anytime we have overflow, we ship it over to Tommy. And Tommy's a 7 on a 10. He's a C-, but he at least gets some things built and he gets them out there. Apply AI to Tommy. What did we just do? We scale mediocrity. So now instead of just being our overflow valve, Tommy just became a nuclear weapon of mediocrity. You can't afford that as a business. The only employees you can scale, the only employees that you want to scale, the only employees that you really want to explode in terms of their output are your 10 out of 10s. So you need to index towards finding Pareto talent. And guess what? They cost you more. So what? You pay 10, 20, 30% more, which is about what they cost. And they do 3, 5, 10, 100 times. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm not being hyperbolic. That is an absolute fact. It is a statistical truism across every organic ecosystem. Sorry, Tommy, you get universal basic income. We're going to pay you to stay home and watch Netflix. The only people that are worth scaling are your 10 out of 10s or your 11 out of 10s, and those people exist. But people are the difference. I'd love to know if you disagree. Hit me in the comments. If you want to help me, share the video. Otherwise, I'm going to see you next time.